Healing from infidelity is certainly not a linear path. There's days when you feel great, followed by days where you feel like you're never going to be okay again. Yet, even with all of that uncertainty, there still are 5 turning points that mark the shift from feeling the pain to beginning to heal. One of those is at some point you simply reach affair fatigue. You just become sick of it all. In fact, it might even become boring because for so long, all of your thoughts, all of your life is so focused on this one thing. And at some point, that one thing just becomes old. And when you're sick of it, you are then motivated to start to take some risks and to maybe try something new. Sometimes people have a light bulb moment where they gain some perspective and they start to see maybe the cheater or their relationship or something about themselves in a different light. Now, some of this just comes with time. You need some time and some space to gain some perspective. But you can also encourage this by listening to other people. Now, here's the hard part. Sometimes the best people to listen to are others that have been unfaithful. And I know how hard that is. I remember intentionally trying to listen to those stories, and I would immediately tense up and go on a rampage almost because I couldn't get over the pain that I had felt when I was cheated on. And so I would identify with the person that had been betrayed to the extent that I couldn't listen. But in time, I learned to separate my own reaction from their stories. And I learned to listen a little bit more. And it was surprisingly healing because in listening to those stories, it helped me gain a different understanding of my ex-husband and perhaps his motivations and what was going on for him. And those were some of my biggest light bulb moments. So if you want to change your perspective, you're not going to get that only by listening to your own thoughts or only by listening to people that agree with you. In order to change your perspective, you have to be brave enough to listen to people that you don't agree with and that you can't understand. Another turning point is when sadness and despair shifts into anger. Because you see, despair has no energy to it. Despair tells us just to curl up and hide, whereas anger tells us to do something. And when you have that anger, you can direct it where you want. You know, the natural place is towards the person that hurt you, or maybe towards the affair partner. And it feels good for a time, but it's not going to get you anywhere. In fact, it keeps you focusing on what happened. But if you can take that anger, even if it has an all show them sort of energy to it, and turn it into doing something that's going to help you heal, that's pretty powerful. Sometimes the turning point comes when we meet somebody. And I don't mean that in the way that some other person is going to heal you, although we so often want that to be the case. But sometimes you meet somebody and that person makes you want to be healed again because all of a sudden you shift from, I never want to be in a relationship again. I never want to be vulnerable again. I never want to risk being hurt again to, I want this. And in order to have this, I need to heal myself. And then finally, the last turning point. Dealing with infidelity, being betrayed is exhausting. We have so much work we have to do. Now, so often we put some of that energy into wanting things we can't control. We want things to be different. We want the person that hurt us to do or say something that's going to make us feel better. And we just become exhausted because we're pushing against a brick wall. And the shift, that turning point comes when you recognize what things you can control and what things you cannot control, and you no longer put your energy into the things you cannot change. Healing from an affair can feel endless. It can feel like a race with no defined finish line. But the more that you can pay attention to those benchmarks that show that you have made progress, and those turning points that really mark a change in your attitude and your energy, the better off you'll be.